Catherine Parsonage Saar Pikar.
Hello, thank you for giving me the time. My name is Saar Pikar and I'm the CEO of CDI. It's an IT company here locally, 300 employees. In my spare time and for fun, I work for the Toronto Foundation for Student Success. I am a member of the board and I'm also the treasurer. The foundation feeds over 146,000 students daily, most of them in schools, because that is the best place to get to hungry children. In some cases, the food is provided to underprivileged children because they have no access to food. In all cases, the food is provided to children who are hungry for whatever reason. There are many studies that show that children don't do very well at school when they're hungry. I don't think that would surprise anybody. The Globe and Mail published a study in October that suggested that high school graduation rates will actually increase by 3 to 5% if we had a national program that fed kids. Other people refer to this program as the breakfast program that you're suggesting we're going to have some cuts to. The City of Toronto took a bold step forward in funding part of this program. We suggest that you should continue doing so and not have any cuts. Not only is this good social policy, it's also a very good business policy. And since I'm a business person, let me try to make really quickly the business case for this. For every dollar that the city has actually spent on this program, the foundation went out and got another $2.20 in other funding from different levels of the government and from the private sector. The money spent on this program is spent locally, and it boosts the Toronto economy. Using a modest multiplier of 7, we can estimate that for every dollar the city spends, $21 go into the Toronto economy. Additional benefits of increasing school attendance and graduation rates are significant. The Globe and Mail estimated again that a high school graduate will generate $75,000 in economic activity, more than a non-high school graduate. Graduates get jobs and create jobs. Graduates are less likely to be a burden on law enforcement, be incarcerated, or become a burden on our healthcare systems. Graduates are what we need in the City of Toronto if the City of Toronto is going to move forward. CDI, my company, added over 100 employees in 2011. We need more graduates. We don't have an unemployment problem. We have a problem finding qualified people. The OECD published a study last week, which other people refer to as well, that suggested that income disparity in the world in general, and in Canada and the United States in particular, is getting worse. The top 1%, and I can tell you I am one of those 1%, is making more, and the bottom 10% is making less. They suggested that tax cuts are not going to be evening this out. They did suggest that you should invest, you as in government, in 3 things: children, education, and healthcare. This is a unique opportunity to invest in all 3 in one shot for a very low amount. I just want to say in conclusion that I grew up in Nigeria, in West Africa, where I always expected to see hungry children, and I never did. And I came to Canada when I was 14, Canada, where I didn't expect to see any hungry children, and I always do. I think that you can actually do something about this for a very, very modest investment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions? Are there any? Yes, Councillor Davis.
I asked the medical officer of health yesterday, because I'm already getting loads of emails, obviously, about a particular, well, about several things, but about nutrition programs. And I was told that the locations have not been identified yet. Is there actually a list of the 48 locations that are most likely to be non-viable and closed? Can you provide them to us?
Yes, indeed. There, last summer, when the Executive Committee was considering cuts to student nutrition programs, a report was prepared by the Toronto Public Health about the impact of a 10% cut. At that time, a list was developed, and that was the list that was released by the Medical Officer of Health of potential cuts. What it represents are the last 10% of programs that were, the last expansion of city municipal reach into this area. Whether it's this 58 programs and this 14,000 children, or another 58 programs and another 14,000 children.
I only have 1 minute.
I'm sorry.
I wanted to ask as well, the cost of food has gone up how much in the last couple of years? Give me a statistic.
More than 10%.
So food has gone up more than 10%. How much?
That's your last question, Councillor.
How much of the program is actually funded by government partners, and how much is actually funded by participants and parents?
About 28% is funded by parents, 10% is funded by the City of Toronto, about 12% by the Province of Ontario, another 11 to 14% from philanthropic donations like the Toronto Foundation for Student Success and other donors. It still leaves us with a huge gap.
Thank you.
Councillor Vaughan.
We don't often talk about waiting lists for breakfast programs because it would be impossible to calculate. But what is the unmet need in the city as we contemplate putting 14,000 kids into school without food in their stomach?
Well, we're estimating that we have 36,000 students right now that could be fed, should be fed, and would significantly improve.
36,000?
36,000 more. Yes, and I should say that Canada is one of the only countries in the world that doesn't have, in the G8, that doesn't have a feeding program in schools. We were meeting with some federal counterparts, and we heard that Brazil has a program for that, which amazes us. But yeah, the need is huge in Toronto.
Thank you.
Councillor Fletcher.
Yes, I just want to be clear that in these programs, we're not supporting schools, that the city is supporting children. They just all happen to be there because they have to be. But am I right in saying that?
Absolutely. Schools are a delivery point, if you will. And the school board pays for caretaking and utilities and for space, many times for the stoves and the fridges. They also do fundraising and special events in their schools. So what you're doing is getting a cost-free infrastructure. You're using public infrastructure for public programs. It doesn't get much more efficient than that.
But they're really dollars that are supporting children that need to be healthy and need to eat. It's good that it's at school, but somehow we would have to be making provision for these children no matter what.
Absolutely.
And there is a tremendous number of volunteer hours that are also associated with these programs, are there not?
Yes, and another deputy is going to tell you about that, but
Okay.
It's more than 1,700 volunteers annually, $1.8 million of volunteer time if you costed it at minimum wage.
Thank you very much. No other questions? Oh, Councillor Matlow.
Hi. So the Toronto District School Board and the Toronto Catholic District School Board, there are different levels of governance formally, but these are Toronto kids, aren't they?
That's right.
Have you ever heard any parent tell you that they actually care which level of government contributes to your foundation, or are they just saying, my kids are hungry, I need support?
If I can just start by saying that there's a lot of parents who don't even know that their kids are hungry and they need support. But if they do know, no, obviously they don't care.
What do you have any reasonable expectation that the province, the private sector, or the school boards would fill in the gap from the lost funding from the city if it were to occur?
The province has its own deficit problems, but when we're talking with them about increasing, because we don't have enough money to feed the kids we have. The school boards are contributing their space, their time. They put in the administration dollars, so it doesn't cost our city a penny. They put in $160,000 more dollars for teenagers. They put in all of the space, so they're doing as best they can in tough times. The next partner that has to come to the table is our federal government. We need your support. So we asked for recommendations earlier. We need your support with our advocacy efforts. And it's not going to happen by the time this budget is passed. It's not even going to happen next year. But we urge you not to cut this budget until we have enough research and data, which we're gathering, to bring in the federal government, because truly, no one level of government can do this alone.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Number 34, Sandra Best.